Hi there, welcome back to Sunnyside Journals. A quick little what's on my desk. I'm working here on the ephemera for Literary England, which is, as you know, if you've been following along, a keepsake journal that I'm working on. And I got to a point with my fussy cutting where I thought, you know what, I really should turn on my camera because a lot of you have asked how I do what I do with my fussy cutting, because I really have fun recreating a picture into a journal page from fussy cutting out of books. I've done it with Eloise Wilkin illustrations. If you recall the bird book that I recently did, I recreated an entire journaling page, cutting apart an Eloise Wilkins illustration. I did it again for the front and back pages for the talisman using the illustrations from that Simeon's Gift, the book by Julie Andrews. So I thought, you know what, I really should turn on my camera. But you know what, I couldn't resist. If you recall, on the back of the illustration for the roast beef was an advertisement for Bird's Custard, and I just loved the little boy and girl, the brother and sister, pushing along this great big huge plum. So I fussy cut that out. Maybe I'll put it somewhere in the a brother and sister. So anyhow, I wanted to show you that. Now, as I mentioned, I am using parts out of this commemorative book that was printed from 1938 when King George and Queen Elizabeth, so that's the Queen Mum, came and toured Canada and the United States. And I want this part of the front cover. So I've already taken it off, and I started doing some cutting around here because I want to put it in on the inside cover of the front page. Now, am I taping? Oh, yes, I am. Thank goodness. All right, I don't have much time because it's Tuesday and I'm going to see my mom. It's hair day. So, I use these scissors for my intricate fussy cutting. Only because, don't think, oh, they must be the best there is. No, no, no. You can fussy cut with pretty well any scissors. But these ones for me, because they've got a spring in them, they're easier. I have arthritis in my right hand especially. And I just find that you only have to squeeze and the spring corrects itself. So it's easier on my hand. It's the only reason why I use these. Oh, and those little tiny pointy tips, I can really get into some tight spots with those little pointy tips. But don't think you need these in order to do awesome fussy cutting. You don't. You can fussy cut. You can fussy cut with these babies if you need to. The key to good fussy cutting is making the best use out of that that action right there. You're not going to use the entire blade when you're fussy cutting. You're just doing a gentle cutting motion and making use of that area right there as you move the paper. Mostly the paper moves, but I must admit sometimes the scissors do have to move. So anyhow, now some people find a smaller pair of scissors easier to work with. You'll find what works for you. And this is one of those rare cases, because I'm trying to get into that little niche there where I will use these points, and these scissors are fabulous for that. I can get into some real details with these that tiny little point there. I am purposefully leaving a bit of an edge. You can see I'm going to ink around it. Now, here's my challenge. So this is why I thought I would turn on my camera. Is I want this part, I want that right on the front page, a beautiful pictorial record, but I love this. So I want to make use of both. So I want that side to be there, and I want this side to be there, and that means this is going to have to be taken out. I need to glue in these two pieces, and then this goes on back on last. So we have to take it apart. And this is the part where it's nerve-wracking, because I will be honest with you right now, I could completely botch this up. And then it's not going to get done. But I could very well pull this off, and that's my plan, is to pull this off. So I am going to do this one first, because that way, hopefully, if all else gets ruined, I can at least save. This is the most important part for me, is saving this. Now I'm going to go straight across here because I don't need their Majesty's feet, and that just gives me a bit more. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I don't want to, this is really important, so it's more important that I be able to see it right now, but I do want to share this with you. So there we go. So then I'm just going to smooth that edge and cut that over. So now I have this removed, and then I'm going to need this side, and I'm going to need this side. There we go. We do not need their Majesty's feet. It will go into my blue box recycling. There we go. All right, so now we need to finish fussy cutting around this. I'm not sure yet if I want that red, see this red stripe here? I'm not sure yet, so I'm going to leave it there, because if I cut it off, I can't glue it back on. So again, I'm leaving myself the teensiest edge, because I do want to use my distress ink. And getting into that tiny little corner there is one of those instances where these tiny little points are marvelous. There we go. And I want to get a little bit closer, just a smidge closer. So here's where I'm making use of, what is that, a fulcrum right there? I'm just making use of that. You'll get a smoother shaving it off without creating too much of a noticeable dent. There we go. All right, see how all those little shavings came off? I hope that's showing up. You can still get those off if you're just careful. So I'm going to want a beautiful pictorial record to go there. So now we need to start fussy cutting this. And again, for now, I'm going to give myself this red border. I don't know if I'm going to keep it up here or not. We'll see. I'm starting to think we're not going to, but I won't know until I'm done. I got to keep an eye on the clock because I have to get out of here by a certain time. All right, so here's where I'm going to fussy cut around this pattern so that it appears, it will appear when we're done as if this entire embellishment was just meant to be on this front page. So that's gone. And I do think I want rid of that red. we go. So that will be going there. I will be, as I said, my beloved Distress ink will be going on this. So that will be going there. And then this will be going over top. Do you see what I'm doing here? Do you see how it's coming together? Let's get this side done. So now I know I don't want that red. I can just go ahead and take it off. I'm going to try and get as close to that rope detail. Just leave myself a little bit of room for the Distress ink. I do that on purpose so that the Distress ink won't cover up the illustration. It'll cover up the red. And then we'll still see as much of the illustration as possible. That detail work is so pretty. So here's where, I didn't mention it over here, where you sort of are going to create your edge, because this is where this scroll work is actually part of the rest of that banner. But I want to include that scroll work, so I'm going to create my own little flourish and do sort of a wave from one side over to the other. And then, although right now it doesn't look correct, once the Distress ink is on it, it will bring it all together and it will flow. All right, let's get these out of here for a second and get those off of there. All right, so now I'm going to ink. And you know what? Before I open up my ink, I'm moving this precious book because I don't want anything to happen to it before it's time to start gluing. So we will ink. I still want a bit more off of that. I'm using, you can't tell anymore because that's where I rest my sponge. I am using the color Gathered Twigs. I like it. It has a chestnut brown shade to it rather than an orangey shade. I do like Vintage Photo, and I will use Vintage Photo on occasion. But this one's my favorite shade. To my eye, I like this chestnut brown better. All right, can you see now by using the Distress ink, it makes that area that was a raw edge and really wasn't part of the artist's illustration, it now makes it flow. And again, here's one of your general rules of artwork. Dark colors retreat and light colors advance. And I want any of that edging to retreat. I don't want it to be noticeable in case it is not perfect. So doing a tiny little edge of Distress ink, you don't have to go mad with it, will just make it look a little bit more professional. There's that little detail there. Okay, I'm happy. Now I still haven't dealt with this yet. I'm not sure what I'm going to do when I put this all together. So I've just left that so that I can have some options. I want this closer. There's a bit of His Majesty's feet still there. So we have to get rid of his toes. His royal toes must go. There we go. Let's go in here and make sure it's balanced. So here again, I'm not, although I don't know if the camera's picking it up, for this long stretch of straight area, I am not using the points. I'm not closing the scissors completely. I'm just rocking my scissors back and forth to get a smoother edge. There, I like that better. And I'm going to ink around this whole thing, especially right there, because that's what's going to make it look like it was actually one piece, which it was, but it wasn't the size that I want it to be. And see how the Distress ink makes that light edge just disappear. I like the sponge for the control because I want a teeny tiny little intense band of ink. I find my sponge does a better job of that than using my brush. There we go. And let's get you done. Now you, I see a little rough area there. There we go. I like the rest. All right. So I'm actually going to do my best to make that red a bit more brown by using the ink and getting into those little crevices and just going right along that edge. Like I said, this, I haven't dealt with this yet. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it until I start laying it on the page and seeing how I'm going to marry this all up and make it look like it has just always been that way and was always that size, and that it was just meant for the front page of this junk journal. I'm going to make that raw edge look like it was always that way. I don't like that little. So just intense, intense Distress ink right there. And it just looks like that edge was always meant to be that way. Now I'm getting rid of all these little dusty things, because if I'm going to start using glue, I don't want all those little nubs getting glued in with my finished product. Alrighty. So, ink is out of the way. Book is back. There's our front page. So, now I'm going to want this right there, I think. And I'm going to want this right here. And then I'm going to want this. I wonder if I want that a little bit higher. Okay. I've trimmed that differently than that. Okay. I brought it in a bit. And then I brought it out. And that would drive me nuts if I glued that down and then noticed it later. That would drive me out of my mind. That's better. Gotta ink it now because that's a raw edge now. Nope, it's still pointy. Hold on, I got to do it over here because the shadow is not letting me see where I want to trim. So I apologize. I know I'm out of camera right now, but I need some of my natural light, especially with my crummy eyes. They still work, don't get me wrong. I'm grateful for my eyes, but I don't have 20/20 vision anymore. There. All right. Happy. I'm going to ink it. There. Now they match. So I want that a little higher. I want that a little darker. Okay. So you're going to go there. Oh dear, look at the time. And you. So, if I want to lift it up. Nope. I want to lift it lower. So those corners need to go. These corners need to go. See what I mean? How I sort of get a gauge at how I'm going to mimic this so that it looks like it was just always that way. And this one too. So that little area's got to go so that it just looks like it was always that way. All right, let's try again. There. There. Love it. And there. Yeah, there we go. Oh, you're not even yet, but you will be when I glue you down. Look at that. So now it fits on this page. Now I'm trying to think if I can cut out that fishtail so it can come forward in front. Do you see what am I out of? Oh, good. Oh, I just had a panic attack. Oh. Well, no, I didn't realize I've had those. Sorry, I shouldn't minimalize that. But I just had a nervous moment that I just done all of this out of screen. So what I'm thinking about is, do you see this little fishtail right here? I'll lift up the book so you can see. Do you see right there? There's a little fishtail. I'm thinking about possibly just snipping around that part of the tail so that I can slide that in underneath it, and it will really make it look like it's all one. And I think that's what I'm going to do, sorry, I hope I haven't disappointed anyone, but I'm looking at my clock here, and there's a sweet little white-haired lady waiting for me. She's getting her hair done today, and it's very important to both of us. So I'm going to leave this be, and we're going to come back probably later on this afternoon and finish our work on this. I'm looking at the cover now, and I'm thinking I might want to make use of these areas and put them up here just for a little continuity and to make a beautiful front page. I'm thinking about it. So thank you for listening to me ramble on while I do all this. We will talk soon. Bye.